have a lot of stuff, and I know there's a lot of bullet points here, and they're in sections. So talk about your setup. I know a lot of people want to say, well, how do I rank better? But half the time when people ask me that, it's like, well, you didn't even set up the right way. So you can't rank unless you set up the right way. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the setup. We're going to talk about the ongoing stuff, and the time you spend the ongoing things. It's not just the one-time stuff, but the stuff that you always have to do. And then other, I didn't know what else to call. I just called it other, but website backlinks, reviewing, other things that you have to do that I don't want to say like miscellaneous, because it's super important. So these are other things that you definitely have to look at. So let's just talk about the setup for now.
Hey, Jan, before you jump into that, we got a couple of questions about that extension that you were using. Brian and Donna both asked about what that extension was.
I think I have so many extensions. If you saw my thing, my Chrome, it would be crazy. I think this one is the GMB Everywhere Chrome extension.
GMB Everywhere Chrome extension. Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure it's that one. So I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's that. So yeah, sorry. Let's go setup. First thing, verification seems very simple. Make sure that you claim your business. When you have one listing, it's easy to claim it. When you're a multi-location and you want to claim lots of them at once, sometimes it's a hassle. So you got to bulk upload, and there's things like that. But make sure you go through the process, claim it, and verify your listing. And the next thing to do after you verify it is, and this is basically the most important thing, is the user access level. So if you're a business owner, you'll be marked as a primary owner. Make sure you have another email that you control that is also marked as owner. There's so many times I'm on the Google support forum and they're like, I don't have access to my listing because I had an employee set it up and they left. And I'm here now because someone left a hugely negative review and it's impacting my business, and I don't have control to answer it anymore, right? So they don't realize until they need to, and then they see that they don't have it, and then, well, it's going to take you a week to 10 days before you get your ownership again. So have your owner have an extra account as an owner. If you're hiring an agency, or if you're an agency listening, don't become the owner of a listing that you're not the owner of, right? The business owner should be the owner. The agency should always be a manager. And if you set up a listing for someone, transfer ownership to them and become a manager. There's other things that are going on where if you have a lot of suspended listings in your account, or if they have suspended listings in their account, everything could get suspended, right? So you don't want a higher level access than you need to, and you also want to protect yourself against bad people where I've seen agencies set up and keep their ownership, and then the business owner will say they are not going to release their ownership to me unless I pay them X amount of money and stuff like that. So set it up the right way. I know it's not a ranking issue, but it can become a really big business issue if you don't set up the things the right way.
Hey, Jan, on that note, Melvin is asking, can you get suspended for claiming the listing with an email address from a different domain?
Well, I didn't want to get too much into it, but you can't really get suspended from different domains, no. But the suspensions come on if your Gmail, or let's just say your Gmail, if your Gmail is associated with spam. So if you're doing other things in the Google ecosystem and Google doesn't like your email anymore because you're flagging things you're not supposed to flag, and you're sending out spam emails, and that email is associated with a GMB listing, that GMB listing could get suspended. So
something like that, though, is, I mean, agencies have to watch out for that, right? If you use an agency email to go and claim a bunch of listings for clients, and then that email is seen to be used all over the place, and that can cause a problem.
Yeah, and that's why you want to be a manager, because Google sees it. Well, if I'm an agency and I have 20 listings I'm the owner of, that looks fishy to Google, because am I lead gen? What am I doing with 20 different listings in different categories? It looks weird, right? If you're a manager, Google say, oh, well, they're just an agency, they're a regular manager, right? So you got to think about it logically from Google's side.
So the location should be the owner, And then the agency would be like a manager.
That's right. Exactly. It seems simple, but a lot of times people forget this setup, right?
Oh, we run into this all the time with ad setup and inventory and all the things that where we're kind of a mega account. DBA platform is a mega account, and then setting this up, it can be pretty tricky to get the right kind of access.
Yeah, especially if you have an agency dashboard. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. So your business name is super important. I just link, clip two screenshots from the guidelines, and your business name should reflect your real world business. It doesn't have to be, and read between the lines here, it doesn't have to be what your registered business name is. Everyone knows that keywords in your business name is a very large ranking factor. So if your business, your GMB name matches your storefront signage or your website logo and copyright, that's good enough for Google, right? So, and be consistent. If you have multiple locations, they should all be named the same. Like they said here, Home Depot, not Home Depot at this location, at this location, at that location, right? Unless, of course, you have signage that says otherwise. So there's things that you can do to really improve your rankings for certain keywords, but you have to legitimize that in the eyes of Google and be within the guidelines. Don't do this, McCall's Carpet Cleaning, San Diego Tile and Grout, and put your phone number in. I don't even know how this got verified, to be honest. That's how poor Google systems are. That's too much. Don't do that. It's a bit crazy when you see stuff like that where Google doesn't flag it, but just some notes here. The GMB name is a very large ranking factor. So if you want to get some keywords in there, do it the right way. And if you want to go on the Facebook group, and everyone's a little bit different, can ask more specific questions, go ahead. If you're adding those keywords, add this to signage, add it to your website, and don't make it all too generic, because some businesses are just their whole business name is just keywords, right? So if you want to go back up here, imagine it didn't say McCall's on it and it just said Carpet Cleaning San Diego Tile and Grout, right? That could actually be your business name that you registered, but someone's going to try to look for you and they're never going to find you, right? They see your truck driving by and I'm going to call them, but Google's not going to give them necessarily that answer because it's such a generic, there's no branding on it, right? So it's going to be hard for someone to find. So always have a branding on your business name. You don't want generic keywords. A lot of times I see in the Google support forums, like no one's finding me. And I look at their name and it's just like tree service town. And you're like, well, because there's 20 other tree services and Google doesn't know that that guy's looking just for you. It's doing a category search, right? So pay attention to that kind of thing. Add keywords, but also have your branding in there. Service area. So you're allowed to have 10 service areas in there. And where it shows up on your desktop, it's going to make a nice little graphic of a red border of what you've chosen, right? And so on mobile, you don't get that. On mobile, you actually have a list of towns that you've chosen. And so just be aware that it does show up different places. It's not a ranking factor, but then again, that's why I talked about the service establishment category, because maybe it is becoming a ranking factor, and that's what I want to test. So choose 10, and you can't choose more than, Google doesn't like it when you're 2 hours away, right? So you're a service area business, you're not driving more than 2 hours to go service a customer, unless you're really in a rural area, but normally you're not gonna go more than 2 hours away from your center location. And so that becomes an issue sometimes if you get suspended and Google says, hey, well, that doesn't make sense. You can't service all of Texas. That's impossible, right? If you're trying to do that, maybe you need to make another listing in another town somewhere else, right? If they're far away. If you're a multi-location business, don't overlap. So when I say that is if you have 2 listings, don't let these red lines overlap each other, because that's a sign again of lead generation, and they're trying to put fake listings everywhere, and they don't pay attention, and they overlap all that stuff. So multi-location, don't overlap your service areas. And like I said, surface areas might become a ranking factor. I'm not sure. That's why I want to test out. Categories, your primary category is a huge ranking factor. Sometimes you have a lot of choice. Sometimes you don't have a lot of choice. Dentists, there's a lot of choice, right? Check out your competitors. You're going to see what they're using. And if everyone's using the same, then that's fine. But sometimes you have choice. Pediatric dentist, dental clinic, and each one of those is going to, Google's going to give priority to different search queries depending on those. Even though they look very similar, they're going to be, if I write children's dentist, Google's going to want to surface pediatric dentist more than just dental clinic, right? So pay attention. If you have a really specific category that fits, choose that as the primary category. HVAC services have tons, right? Because they're plumber, HVAC, furnace, air conditioner. These are all categories that are in GMB that I have a listing that shows. So which ones do you pick? And they're all going to be a little bit different. In this case, you'll want to change your primary category depending on the seasonality, right? So in the summertime, you want to pick your AC service as the primary. And when you're in the winter, you want to change it to your furnace repair service as your primary, right? So you're allowed to change it. Don't be afraid. Again, when you're making edits to core pieces of information like your GMB name, your category, and your phone number, there's always a risk that Google will say, hey, whoa, there's something weird going on here, and might ask for verification again. So make sure you have all the paperwork, that you're at a certain location and your business registry and all that stuff in case Google does suspend you, and you got to send that information to them again to get reinstated. But definitely if you're like in this case AC or furnace, you want to switch your primary categories over. Choose all the categories that make sense as secondary categories. There's no category dilution, so pick all of them that apply. Switch on seasonality. The other thing, and we're going to talk about the website later, but create a matching page for each category on your website. So if you have a bunch of categories available to you, make sure you have, at the minimum on your website, have one page that talks about, that focuses on, the page title has that service category as its standalone page. Very important for ranking. And just also, some categories will create GMB functionality restrictions. So like hotels and B&Bs can't use the post function, right? Used to be that schools, they couldn't have reviews on certain platforms, like it wouldn't show up on desktop and things like that. So your primary category will affect some of the functionality of your GMB, but Google doesn't release a list of that. It's just, we just know by experience, by like, yeah, you're not going to have that just because you're in that category. So some things might be missing depending on what your business is. Phone number seems pretty simple. The one thing I want to talk about here is that I get a lot of questions on, well, if I'm call tracking, how does that work? Then my phone number isn't consistent, again, across all my citations and my website, and I'm giving Google a different phone number to do call tracking. Well, that's what this additional phone number field is for, right? So don't use a 1-800 number. Google likes to see local numbers. Don't use 800 number. If you're multi-location, use different numbers for each listing. I just helped someone on a Reddit forum that I'm a mod on, that says two of my listings just got merged and they're like miles away from each other. And I said, well, give me the information. Well, they had the same name, which is right. You have the same business name, but they all had the same phone numbers. So Google doesn't know. You're 2 miles away, you have two listings, but probably what happened is that he doesn't have citations for that new listing. So the algorithm just says, oh, there's the same name, same phone number, same website. That's the same as your other listing, merge. And now you got to sit there and fight with Google support to undo that stuff. So use a different phone number for each multi-location for business, right?
Hey,
Jan,
I just have a question going back to categories. Kara Mari asked, is there a drop-off in value when you add more categories, even if they all apply?
No, that's what I said. No, there's no category dilution. Your primary category is going to be the strongest one, the one that Google cares about the most. And the secondary categories, there's no order, so it doesn't matter. They help, not as much as the primary, but add as many that make sense. And where was I? The call tracking. So call tracking number. So what you want to do is, if you have a call tracking, add it as the primary. And your additional phone number is going to be your actual real phone number that shows up on your website and all on all your other citations. That way Google knows that, like, yes, there's a citation with a different phone number, but it's okay because we know about it. So that's fine. There's no difference.
And Kurt asked, can you add extensions to phone numbers?
I've never tried that. I don't know. To be honest. I've never done an extension on the phone. I don't know if it's clickable. So yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one. Sorry. And again, phone number edits are changes to core information. So might suspend the listing. This is usually minimal. Again, this is to stop spammers from trying to verify a listing and then changing a category, and then later on changing the phone number, and then later on changing the GMB name and try to turn it into something else. So depending on the categories, it does happen sometimes. So just know that anytime you make edits to your GMB listing, it might get suspended, but that's why you always have to have your backup paperwork. Logo and cover. So these are images that you upload to your GMB listing, and then you can assign a logo to one and a cover to another. They show up in your knowledge panel, but make sure that they look right? So he uploaded his logo and his cover, and they're not centered, right? It looks really unprofessional for a law firm. That's not cool, right? It's like, doesn't make me trust that they're not paying attention to the details, right? So pay attention after you upload something and you choose it as a cover or your logo. Make sure it looks right. On mobile, on desktop. Make sure it's cropped properly. Google doesn't always pick what you choose, so it's kind of more like a suggestion. So Google might choose something else, so don't be like, oh my gosh, Google's not choosing it, something's wrong. It's because Google liked the different image in your, if you upload a bunch of images, Google might say, no, we like that one better. It happens, and there's ways to force it. I can't get into that now, but it doesn't like text. It doesn't like far away shots. There's certain things that you could do, and just try to maintain consistent branding across your website logo and the logo that you're putting in here. You want to make it seamless for a user if they do visit your website. The website, we're going to go through it a little bit more later, but the associated website is a very large ranking factor for GMB. A lot of people don't realize that. Think, oh, I'm only going to work on the GMB, and why aren't I ranking? It's because your website needs work. Your associated website should be your homepage, unless you have a multi-location business. If you have like 3, 4, 5, let's say, you're going to want to not use your homepage for the listing. You're going to want to use a specific location landing page. When let's say you have three locations, it's okay. You can put in your footer. What you want to make sure you want to do is have that phone number and your address, right? Google is looking at the phone number, address on that landing page. And so in the footer, if you have 3 businesses, you could do that. But once you get 4, 5, then you're shoving too many things in the bottom. You want to use a local landing page for that specific listing that has all the information about the local store, right? And that's, Google is using that information to corroborate the GMB information. Use UTM parameters. And if you do that, you can separate your data in Search Console and Analytics from the organic data. So I have a whole article on that. And there's just an example where instead of just putting your website in, put in UTM source, Google, UTM medium, all that kind of stuff. Ryan, if you want to drop that link now, it's an article I wrote years ago. People are still not doing it. And it lets you see the difference between my GMB rankings and my organic rankings, because Google just lumps it together when you're looking at Search Console. It doesn't differentiate your website from your GMB. And this is a way to separate that information. It's very important when you're doing analysis. Business hours, again, seem simple. Fill them out. Don't forget the more hours section. Not all of them apply. Most of them are for restaurants, but there's other ones. There's online service. There's senior hours. There's pickup, right? So if you do have senior hours or other hours, add them in. The more information you give to Google, the better. Periodically review your hours to make sure they're correct. Update holiday hours. And you can use DBA, right? So let's say you're a multi-location business. You have 10 listings, and you're changing. You want to. We're closed on Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, whatever. You would have to go in one by one each listing and add those in. That's what DBA is there for, is to automate and make it more efficient. So you go in, change your hours, and batch them all at once, right? Saves you tons of time. It's so much more efficient. Add special hours if you know you close on other days. And there always a question, there's no appointment only option. I can't be like, I don't want any hours, I just want appointment only. Google is not allowing that. So you have to get around it by, you have to pick some hours. So pick like normal hours and use your FAQ section, use your posts, use, put an image and say, please call first, add it on your website. So you have to get around that appointment only option for some kind of businesses. Description, 750 characters, fill it out, but don't keyword stuff it. This is a little bit keyword stuff to me. The words in here are not a ranking factor. It's readability for a user to find out more about you, right? So put a call to action, make it so that why should they hire you? What makes you good? Don't put like car accidents, motorcycle accident, pedestrian, but like this is like, it doesn't help anything to just shove keywords in there, right? So do it the right way. Attributes in your GMB section, super important. Google keeps adding more, so check them every once in a while. When there's new ones, and on the webinars, I say, yeah, there's a new attribute. They did change it. They used to be women led. Now they changed to women owned, like last week. It was black led, black owned. They changed a couple of them like that. So, and the health and safety, they keep updating those kind of things. So not all attributes are going to be available to everyone. So that's one of the things that your primary category is going to affect. You can't choose, you won't have all of them. On mobile, they show up like this. So it makes it really easy for a user to quickly identify things about your business, right? So it avoids them having, well, are they this or are they that, or do they do this? And then you have three, you're in the 3-pack, and then you click on here, and then should I call a business or should I just click on someone else that does it, right? So the more information you give to Google, the better, but the more information you give to a user, the better, right? So fill it all out. And then some things do show up in the 3-pack, right? So I have women-owned business near me, women-led business, and Google is taking an attribute and it's putting a nice little icon, and it's filtering a business. So they're becoming, I'm not going to say a ranking factor because it's not going to like bump you up, but it's filtering, it's an input that Google is using to put in front of people. So make sure that you get those extra attributes that apply. So choose everything. It's really helpful for a user. There are some attributes, not all of them, but some of them are ranking inputs like I just showed you. And the last thing I want to mention is that Google does not police these attributes. So you can pick whatever you feel like. We talked about that. There was someone, a lawyer, it was a solo practitioner lawyer. He looked white, he said black owned on his listing, and I'm not, whatever it is, but we went to Google and said, well, can they do that? And Google's like, we don't care. They could pick whatever we want. We're not going to police that. That's not even in our scope. Like we can't even do normal stuff. Can you imagine us trying to find that out? They said that basically it's going to self-regulate, right? If you go and a woman led and you show up and there's a guy and you're pissed because you expected a woman or somebody else,
it'll show up in the reviews.
Then the review is gonna leave a bad review. So it's gonna self-police basically. So
yeah, this may be a moot question based on Google not policing it, but Ricky asked if attributes are for business owners only, or is it best for an agency to do that? Like
the agency can add stuff. Yeah. So as an agency, we're always asking I'm always asking my clients, well, which ones of these, what like, especially with the COVID stuff, like, are you asking for vaccinations? Are you asking for masks? Are you for, like, what are you doing? And then you got to update. So yeah, as an agency, you can go in and change that stuff. If that's what the question is. I'm not quite sure, so we can clarify. So that's all the setup stuff. And I did skip some of the things. I skipped like services, I skipped products. There's other things that are one-time stuff. Fill it out, use images where you can on the products and services. Fill out the open date and everything, all the stuff, fill it out. I was just trying to go through all the more important ones here. So the ongoing things that you need to do to help your ranking. So adding photos. And Ryan, if you want to drop the link to the Google page here. So this is a screenshot of a page on Google, and there's a lot more information on this page. This is only 3. There's like, I don't know, 7, 8 different categories of photos that Google is telling you about. So basically it tells you exactly what it likes to see. And if Google's telling you something, pay attention, especially when they go into this kind of detail, right? That's important for lots of reasons. So go to that link that Ryan is going to drop there and read that, pay attention to it. Tons of reasons for photos. We could do a whole webinar just on photos, but here's just a quick example. I searched for organic bananas, and Google is surfacing pictures, not of the storefront, but of bananas pictures that were uploaded to the GMB, right? So which ones look better, right? You have to make sure they look nice. There's bananas here, there's nice bananas here. These ones are green bananas, right? So pay attention to your images, do searches, and see what's coming up. Does mine look better than the competitors? Will I get, I know it's just one factor, but images are not only on the sidebar of your of the map app. It's showing up for your business, and it'll change depending on the query that a user puts in. Super important. A few notes: you can't delete user uploaded photos. You can flag them, but then but you can't delete them automatically. You can upload videos. A lot of businesses don't upload videos. They might have a YouTube channel. I'm always taking stuff from YouTube and putting it onto GMB. Google says you can't do more than 30 seconds. You can do more than 30 seconds. You could do a lot more than what they tell you to do. So just try. If you have good videos, put them on. Don't use stock photography if possible. If you have absolutely no images, upload it. Google might flag it. It might not go through the filter, but something is better than nothing. And don't use too much text. Google, there's certain filters, and I can't go through all the details for the images, but Google likes to see certain things. And in that slide above, you'll see all the things that Google likes to see and what it doesn't like to see. And images can be used for ranking inputs, like I showed you with the bananas, and automate your images. So if you're multi-location, you have tons of locations, listings, and you have to sit there one by one uploading the images. Use DBA. That's what we're here for. We're here to automate this kind of service for GMB listings. Is upload an image, boof, you have 100 listings. It all goes to the same one batch, right? Very efficient, very fast, and it saves time for more important things, right?
Yeah, and Eric asked, does Google penalize for photos that are enhanced or have a logo added to them?
There's no penalty. It either gets through the filter or doesn't get through the filter. Right? It's either going to get through or not get through. And sometimes it gets through, and then Google tweaks the filter algorithm, and then it'll say your image was removed, right? Which, now that you say it, it's kind of, that would be bad, because let's say you have an image that's there for 2 years and it's kind of iffy, and then Google changed the algorithm and doesn't like that image anymore and removes it. All the engagement that was on that image just disappeared. And engagement, and you'll see it later, engagement is a ranking factor. So, and this happened with a glitch. There was photos, they all got disconnected from a GMB listing, and the GMB rankings tanked for that because it was a glitch. We got the images connected again, through support, and then the rankings went back up. So it's not the actual image, like you can upload 100 images, 1,000 images, but it's the engagement on the images that Google is counting. So you don't want to put iffy images because they might disappear and then you lose that information. So do a little bit of upfront work, get nicer images, don't use stock if possible. And I say if possible because there's some agencies that be like, I'm not getting anything from my business, right? I'm not getting anything from my person, and I got to do something, right? So that's like the bare minimum if you don't have anything. Post, we could do a whole nother webinar on that.
And sometimes we do.
Yeah. So really quick, we have lots of different kind of posts: offer, what's new, event, products, right? You have the COVID post. COVID post still is taking the space, I believe, of the other posts. So if you put a COVID post, your other posts are not going to show up. So use that sparingly. And then when you're done, if there's something really important you want to get out to your potential clients, put it up and then take it down. Take down the COVID post when you're done with it so that your regular posts show up again. Here is, we're going to put this in the Facebook group, I think. This is basically a safe zone of a thumbnail. So when you upload an image, it goes to mobile, it goes on desktop, and it gets cropped, right? So I've seen images where they have a good post, they have a nice image, but it's a little bit off and the person's head gets cut off. And you're like, well, that doesn't look nice, right? If you click on it, it'll expand and then it's nice. But in the little thumbnail, it doesn't look nice. So stay in the safe zone. And these are pretty close to accurate, these pixels, but Google changes things all the time. So
in fact, they changed it this week as Jan was getting ready to do this webinar. He had our art department making this image, and then he had to interrupt them and say, "Oh, it changed." So it does
Can you
change
this? But change this by 10 pixels and change this by 15 pixels and stuff like that. So, this is a very good approximation of where you want to be. And of course, after you upload something, check it. Go to your knowledge panel and check it. So posts are a great way to get recent information in front of people. You can have things, ongoing, like your evergreen stuff scheduled, and do that with DBA again. But if you have news, it's good. If you have coupons, if you have a flyer, a weekly flyer, put that in. You have links to do that. You can track those links on the buttons. Like click here or learn more to go to a website. You can put UTM parameters just like we did on the website to track, because GMB doesn't always track everything the right way. So you want to track yourself when you can. You can put call tracking numbers on the call now button. Not saying a lot of people do it because it gets expensive to use call tracking numbers just for random things, but for testing, you can. Don't put hashtags. I've seen people put hashtags in their GMB posts. Don't do that. It doesn't do anything. It just looks spammy because it's like you're shoving keywords in there. And then automate with DBA, right? So do a schedule, do 6 months of write out all your posts, take your images, put them all together, take a couple hours, go to DBA, schedule them all out. Especially if you have a multi-location, they're all gonna go to the, all at once. It's gonna save you a lot of time, be more efficient. Check out our services. That's why we're here.
We're getting the question from a few people, how often to post? Somebody
Weekly.
said it used to be once every 7 days. Is it still that?
Google hasn't changed. So Google says post weekly. Now, maybe that's a little bit self-serving for them because they want more information. But usually if they say something really specific, like I mentioned before, you should follow their guidelines. If they're really specific, every 7 day, every week post, then try to do it. And if you can't, you can't. Do it every 2 weeks. But remember that the more posts you have, the more potential engagement you have on that listing. So reviews, we could do a whole webinar on reviews, right? So there's so many things wrong with this 3-pack here, right? So there's no reviews. It doesn't stand out. There's nothing. I mean, the picture is horrible, and that's another thing about the images, right? All these pictures are horrible to me, but this one is blank. It has no yellow stars, nothing, right? So get reviews. You have to figure out how to get more reviews. If you're an agency, you have to help your client getting reviews. Give them an email template, tell them what to do. You have to help them. A lot of these small business owners, they just don't have a systematic way to gather reviews. There's third-party tools that do that as well, but sometimes, you know, it's hard to sign up to so many services, right? So the other thing that reviews do is it pulls in a justification, right? So you see this little arrow pointing to this line here, and that's called a justification. It's a weird name from Google, but it's pulling in from a review, and it's matching on a keyword that I typed in, right? So the bolded word there, and we'll talk about the bolded words.
Hey, Jan, Art is asking a good question on that one. How is Via Viente #1 in that search with no reviews and
I'm probably super close. I'm probably just super close by proximity.
Proximity is the #1 factor. Yeah. So if you were standing at their front door, they are going to be #1.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it looks even to be a service area business, but I might have just been right at their location when I set my browser to different places for all these examples, right? So more review stuff. So in your knowledge panel, you're going to have this extra section. So you have reviews from the web, and three reviews are going to get pulled in. So let's talk about reviews from the web. They're important because, you know, you want to match what the reviews are, right? If I go back up here and I have a 4.5 star rating or 4.4 rating, and then I go here and then someone sees, well, you have a 1 rating, right? Well, that doesn't match my GMB rating. What's going on? I might go visit that because people look for those things. I'm looking to see if this business is good or bad. So if I see something weird, I'm going to go there. So if there's websites that are getting pulled into your reviews from the web section, pay attention to them, be proactive with them. Like Happy Cow, he has 1 review, it's 5. But if he gets another review that's a 1, well, he just went down to 2.5. That's not good, right? So I know it's hard, there's so many things to do, but pay attention to this. And again, we'll talk about the citations later. These are citations. Google is pulling this into your knowledge panel, right? Anyway, down here, reviews. So usually Google likes to have 2 good reviews and 1 not so good review. In this case, it's pulling in a 4, but probably what it's doing, because it likes variation, look at these bolded words. You know, herbs and spices, quality, drinks, family. These are words that you need to pay attention. These are words that Google is saying, these are important. Maybe I should put a picture of herbs and spices on my GMB. Maybe I should put a picture of, you know, of drinks on my GMB, right? Google is giving you the answer. So I'm here to help you rank, but it's so sometimes these things are amorphous, and Google is saying this is important, so give it more information of what it thinks it's important, right? So
what's funny about that, Jan? What's funny about that is that, like, on some of these things, you're like, it's obvious because Google's telling you right here with this bold that they want the information. And then on other things, it's like, yeah, Google says that, but it doesn't affect anything. So we really need you to untangle what's important.
Okay, yeah, so that's fair. That's fair. Google does say a lot of stuff, but they don't usually lie outright. But yeah, but just this one section tells you a lot of what Google wants. So find these, go to Foursquare. Is the description? Did you fill out your description on Foursquare? Did you use all the character limits? Did you put the keywords in? Because Google's pulling it into your knowledge panel, so it's paying attention. Go to Happy Cow, see what's there, fill it out, put all the information, put some images if you can, fill out everything you can, right? Systematize getting new reviews. That's hard, but you got to do it. Answer all the reviews professionally. We've all seen examples of the 1-star review, and the business owner comes back with profanities and you screw you. How can you leave me a 1 star? Like, well, I'm not going to go to that business. The owner looks like an a-hole, right? Reviews can show up as justifications, like we just saw in the 3-pack. Pay attention to the bolded words. Reviews from the web, we just talked about that. And perfect 5 is not always the best. If you have 100 reviews and they're all perfect 5, that are you review gating? Are they fake? They look a little fishy if you're always perfect all the time. And people want to see the bad reviews sometimes. There's always going to be some crazy person that you blinked wrong and they gave you a 1 star, right? So does the owner
I went to
answer
buy
back?
a grill. I went to buy a grill online one time, and this grill had a lot of 4 and 5 reviews and one star review. Well, I went and read it to see what am I in for. And the 1-star review was because it doesn't come assembled. And it was like, well, you're crazy. Of course it doesn't come assembled. Like, so, you know, consumers do use that, and, you know, to figure out what the real scoop is.
Right. And so you're, yeah, and you're replying, sorry, go ahead.
Art is asking some questions about when people buy reviews. Can Google see, like, if 25 reviews go up in one day, or like how does Google penalize for when you buy reviews?
So there's no filter. And the reason why I know there's no filter, not that I've tested that, but I know there's no filter on the number of reviews that come in, is because you'll see on Twitter or a business that is getting lambasted for something because they did something dumb, or some, you know, the left doesn't like it or the right doesn't like it. And you'll go and there'll be 1,000 reviews in one day, and they're there. And then 2 days later, when someone tells Google, like a PE, like we see that, it's like, oh, this business is getting review bombed, and they're all there. And if we don't tell Google that they got review bombed, Google doesn't take them down. There's no timing filter. So, and it's legitimate sometimes. Sometimes I have a list and I'm going to send out 10 emails, you know, today, or 20 emails today. I'm just going to batch it and say, hey, can you leave me a review? Can you leave me a review? And I send out to all my mailing list, and they all come in on the same day. They're all legitimate. I just ask them all at the same time. So there's no timing. So go ahead and do that, but don't do fake reviews. Google's not so great at catching those, but that, you know, the FTC just gave a warning to a lot of businesses that, hey, if you're doing fake reviews, you're potentially going to get fined a lot, because now you're breaking consumer laws when you're doing fake reviews, right? It's not, you're not on the same level anymore. A fake listing, but fake reviews, now you're completely lying. So
hey,
be careful.
If you never answered your reviews for like a year, should you go back and answer them, or should you just start going forward?
Yeah, that's hard. I like, you know, you could go back. You can go back. There's nothing wrong, because you're answering the review not necessarily for the person who left the review, unless they're a repeat customer, but you're answering the review for other people that are seeing your listing for the first time. They're seeing that, right? So go back and do it. And you don't have to do it all at once. Go back a month, and then 2 months, and 3 months, you know, as time permits. But go back 6 months if you can. I don't know if people scroll down more than a year, because there's other studies that say, you know, within 3 months, people look at, if old reviews, people tend to ignore because they're just too old. They're like, it doesn't apply anymore. I'm only going to look at the most recent reviews, right? So if you're a restaurant and you have 1,000 reviews, don't go back. You might be wasting your time there, but go back as much as you're comfortable and as time permits. All right, I got to move here. So FAQ. This shows up in your knowledge panel. I have an expanded FAQ section here. So what you do is you upvote your question 3 times, upvote your answer 3 times, and it's going to show up natively. So what you want to do is you want to seed your own questions and answers, right? So what kind of limos do you have available? Are we able to see the limos before we book? These are questions that the business owner is getting all the time. Every single call, there's the same questions. So they went ahead and used an account, asked the question, and then came in as the owner and answered the question. They've made their own FAQ. You're allowed to do that, and you have to do that on your knowledge panel. You don't have access to the FAQ section through the GMB dashboard. So go to your knowledge panel, do a brand search, find your knowledge panel, and put it in, right? If you're an agency, go to the client's website, look for the FAQ, ask them, say, hey, can we put these on your GMB? Put them in. I'll vote a question 3 times, and then it'll show up natively and you can change that too, right? So if you want to have a different question, depending on seasonality, show up, downvote, and upvote, and mess around with that. So user engagement is a ranking factor. So we talked about photos, posts, reviews, FAQ, all this stuff are places where people click, right? They're clicking, they're reading, they're going back and forth. The user engagement is a ranking factor. So the fact that you've uploaded 1 million photos doesn't do anything. It's because people are clicking on it and looking at it is the important thing. So you want to have consistently new things on there for people to click, right? They don't want to see, oh, this post is 6 months old. Well, I'm not going to click on that, right? If there's a post that's a week old, well, that's relevant. I'm going to click on it and look at it, right? So that's why you want to do things weekly. That's the best thing. Live inventory. This is for retail stores. I'm talking about this because it's a ranking factor for retail stores. It's really big. So we call it live inventory, but it comes on your knowledge panel as see what's in store. And basically here highlighted in green, it's a way to connect your store inventory from your point of sale system into your Google listing. And all those items are going to show up on your knowledge panel. It connects to your merchant center and people can make a sale, go to your site. Seamless, like it's kind of like Google's way of starting to compete with Amazon, right? So to get things on the web so you can make a purchase. The other thing is super important. To me, it's even more important than this because I like rankings. Is when you're connecting your inventory, you're telling Google, you're giving them data that is right? It's trustworthy information. So someone searches for Merrill shoes for women, so a certain brand. Google says, hey, I know this store. It has this information. It has them in stock. We know it's in stock because they updated it today. Look at this justification. This is awesome. Google is going to show that listing. This shoe store, I just did a case study on this. This shoe store did not rank for this query before we connected the live inventory. But now Google trusts the information and boom, it's showing up. So super important. If you're a retail store, contact us. Google doesn't do it direct. It goes through third party. We have to validate the feed and all that stuff. It's there's things to do. It's not one click to turn on your see what's in store, but contact us. We'll give you more information. Super important if you have retail. So it's a ranking factor, displays it in stock and connected with us. I just said all that stuff. Scans. Okay, super important stuff about the scans. So are you ranking well in just your small area, or are you ranking well across a whole area, right? So what I like about this is why I created Local Falcon, is so I can have this information I created for myself and I put it out there, and now tens of thousands of businesses are using it. Our competitor report to me is the most awesome report that you can think of. You do one scan and not only does it show you your rankings, but it shows you with one click. All I'm doing is clicking. I can see the rankings of every other competitor on Google Maps in that area. Super cool for analysis. You can see who's the best, who's ranking well for what keyword, and that kind of thing. It lets you, our reports show you, like, you can find competitor listings to report. It shows you, like, if there's technical issues, you can notice them on there. I could do a whole nother webinar. We've done that on just scanning. But
Peter asked if Local Falcon works in the German market.
Yeah, it works everywhere. Wherever there's a Google 3-pack, yeah, it works everywhere for every language, basically. So where do you find the keywords to use, right? So you want to use the keywords that you find in Google Search Console. So connect your Google Search Console and Google Insights. Search Console is going to show you keywords that your website was found and your GMB was found. Google Insights only shows you what's on Google Maps. Look there and you're going to find your keywords. It's pretty simple for local. There's not that many variations of things, of services that you want to, like your main keywords, right? So we have stump removal, tree stump removal, near me. Over here we have arborist, and we have a location, we have Portland, right? So you have these variations. So I just want to point out here that they all might have different scans. So we have tree. I just did it this morning. One location, tree removal service, tree removal new market, and tree removal near me. Completely. Well, these two are kind of close, but very different ranking scans. So when you're checking, you got to put these in because you might be ranking really well. I'm ranking well, but when you type in the location, now you're ranking 7th. Because your website isn't optimized well for the town name yet, right? So, and this tells you that you need to work on. I need to use near me a little bit more on my website. So let's talk about the website. Very important. This again, it's a whole nother webinar. So on your website, you want to look at the content and your site structure. And in this GIF here, this guy has like way too many things in your menu. If your home page is the most important page, and you're telling Google, like, I have 50 pages off my main menu, Google doesn't know what's important, right? So focus your main menu to your most important pages. Don't have this. In your content of your homepage, don't link to your internal pages with a learn more anchor text. Why would you do that? Why don't you link it with exact match anchor text, right? So there's a lot of stuff. Your homepage is the most important. If you're multi-location and you're linking to your location pages, the same thing applies. Those have to be optimized as well. So optimize all the best practices. Landing page needs to have your local information. So keep the main menu uncluttered, link to the internal pages within the homepage content with exact match. And each service, I talked about this before, each service category needs its own page. Backlinks, there's too many things to talk about backlinks. So backlinks point to the website, not to your GMB page. I've seen that in some black hat form. Don't link to your GMB page. Link always to the website. Local and niche directory links are the most important. They're hard to get. You got to do outreach, right? And create good content if you have that time. And not consistency. So I like that. Local citations are not dead. You already saw, I just showed you the reviews from the web. They're pulling local citations, right? So they're still important. They're backlinks, right? So look, I just did a brand search for a lawyer here, and I'm scrolling through. You're getting all kinds of weird things, right? So data analyze, Manta, Bird's Eye, Who Do You? These are show me local, just like Google is indexing these pages. And if they're indexing it, Google is counting it. So all the citations, and DBA has a service to help you with citations, they're still important. They count. They get pulled into the knowledge panel. The other thing they do is if some of your citations are wrong, Google is going to say like, hey, your hours are not that you put in are not right. These are the right hours. And you're like, whoa, why are my hours changing automatically? It's because somewhere on one of your citations, you have the wrong hours, and Google's system is like saying, hey, we know better than you. We're gonna, because on yellowpages.com, you put in these hours, and that's what we're gonna change it. So your citations, there's lots of proof that citations still count. So pay attention. Multi-location brands, you need a service, because to go and change 30 citations, all the hours, and especially because of COVID, it's hard. So DBA can do that for you. Niche directories are still, manual. If you're a vape shop, there's lots of directories for that, but they're not in the main systems, right? You're gonna have to go and look for those websites.
Yeah, and I have to cut you off because it's
yeah. I ran out of time. So
we made the hour. This is
give me 2 minutes. I'm almost done here. Do a SERP review. Do a branded search. Look on Google. What do you see? Is there anything wrong? Fix it. There's lots of stuff on your 3-pack. Look at it. Does it make sense to a user? Reviews, years in business, justifications, distance. Look at Google. Don't only use tools. I know I'm selling tools to you. I'm selling DBA. I'm selling Local Falcon. Go on Google and look at what is there. Optimize all the things. That's what I just told you to do. But what's most important is your name, your category, your website, citations, create points of engagement, and local backlinks. That's what you got to do. I know it's vague there, but I went through all the details before. And here's our nice DBA circle wheel of all the stuff that we do. So please look at our stuff and let us help you. Go ahead.
A couple things before people drop off. Number one, please join the private Facebook group. And if your question wasn't answered, I tried to answer a lot of them. I was actually typing answers to a lot of the questions to try to hit them. But we have a lot of really good questions that you guys asked that I really, really want to dig into because they're so good. My suggestion would be that we recap next month by actually going through people's questions. Like, what about putting emojis in Google Posts? Does it matter? Are you reselling your local Falcon API to Bright Local? No. Does DBA directory management use data from Google? We use sign up and we're looking for better. We have answers to all these questions, and each one of these is such a good deep dive to really understand how to do this and what to do. And people have industry questions that they've put in here about certain industries, and how do you expand into other zip codes and things like that, which, you know, we didn't even get to. So I'm sorry that we tried to pack so much into today, but we will definitely expand on this next month. The other thing is, we do have a knowledge base of articles that actually answer a lot of the questions that you guys are asking. So if you want access to that, we'll, you know, come to the Facebook group, ask for whatever you need. We'll point you in the right direction. And I think what we're going to do is take all the questions that came in today and make those the subject of next month's webinar. So if you come back in November, we'll actually answer your direct questions and get into some of these case studies for people where you really have like deeper questions. And I mean, I hope you appreciate, there are so many webinars in the industry that are fluff and stuff, and like people are trying to sell you stuff and they go, you know, it takes forever to get to the meat. I think Jan just dropped like about 7,000 pounds of meat on us today. And we have more, always more. So please come back in November. If you want to create an account at Local Falcon, you can do that and get free credits right away to start doing scans and see how your keywords are stacking up, and if you're showing up in the 3-pack. And DBA platform, you can try also for free. You can upload your locations and start playing with the tools. You'll find that if you're a multi-location agency or franchise, I mean, to not use DBA platform is crazy because the cost is so small. To just replicate all your content and make everything much easier for you. But if there's any other questions that we can answer, hit us up on the Facebook group. Feel free to reach out to us. And I got a lot of feedback today in the chat about other topics that you guys want to explore in webinars, and we'll start putting that agenda together. Oh, Jan, you're muted.
I was too tight today, so I want to help. I'm here to help. I'm like, let's give all the information as possible, but I tried to cover as much stuff. So we'll go over your questions. If you have something more pressing, leave it in the Facebook group and I will answer that. And yeah.
All right, awesome. See you guys next time.
Super, thanks.